Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Open Mic. My name is Coco and this is Chloe, and we are so excited because today we are on here to talk about friendships. And friendships is such an important topic because all of us either have friends or we're looking to have some friends.
Yeah.
Because life can be lonely and God has given us a gift of friendship,
Yeah.
and we can learn how to glorify God in those friendships and how we can really use our friendships to help each other to pursue the Lord more. And
Yeah.
so we're going to just talk about that and what the Bible says. And so,
Yeah.
Chloe, tell us today, what does the Bible say about friendships?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's so important just to start off with that because, that's our ultimate example. So I think we need to go there first to see what God says about friendships. So I think of Jesus as being the ultimate example of what a true friend is. We see him walk with his disciples, and those are his friends here while he lived on earth. And so in John 15:13 through 15, it says that there's no greater love than to lay down one's life for one's friend. And that's exactly what Jesus did, is he literally laid his life down, gave up his life for his friends on earth, for you and me, but also for his friends, for his disciples that he was so close with while he was on earth. So I think that's something that we can totally just apply to our lives, of laying our life down and serving our friends. But yeah, do you have another verse too about what that looks like in the Bible says?
Yeah. I think like what's so cool about the Bible is it talks so practically about just life, right? The Bible is our guidebook to life. And so I love that even in this topic of friendships, we can just search the scripture and see, like, how am I supposed to be a good friend? What does that look like? And so I wrote down a couple of verses. And the first one is 1 Corinthians 15:33, because sometimes we're thinking, like, okay, so I want good friends, but sometimes we also are like, how am I supposed to know if I have good friends or if I don't have good friends, right?
Yeah.
And so 1 Corinthians 15:33 says, don't be misled. Bad company corrupts good character. That right there is like, okay, so you got to pay attention. So I would say, number one, pay attention to who you're surrounding yourself with.
Yeah, that's huge.
And if it's bad company, then it says it's going to corrupt good character.
Yeah.
And as believers, we want to do everything we can to glorify God. One of those things is to have the fruit of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, and self-control. And that's good character. But if we surround ourselves with people who don't have good character, then we will so easily be swayed in that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And another verse too is Proverbs 16:28. A perverse person stirs up conflict, and a gossip separates close friends. And so it's just so crazy that the Bible is so clear about, like, okay, who are we surrounding ourselves with? And if we are surrounding ourselves with those people who are going to bring us down, then it's not going to be glorifying to God.
Yeah.
And so I think that's just really practical
Yeah.
of, like, what does the Bible say about that?
Absolutely. I totally agree. I like when you said, like, even just the fruit of the Spirit, because I think of qualities of just healthy friendships in my life, of that's so evident, is just having those and having friends that just kind of push you to pursue the fruit of the Spirit too. And so I think that that's like a really healthy quality of friendships too.
For sure. And I think we could all say, like, wow, I've had friends where it's like super draining because it's like, you're doing things that maybe isn't glorifying to God. It's you're just sitting around gossiping. And what does that say that what does the Bible say that it does? It tears apart friendships. And so it's natural for us to have that conflict in relationships and in friendships. And it's like, what are we going to do as Christ followers to be able to resolve those conflicts?
Right.
What do you think about that, Chloe?
Yeah, I think just thinking, we are human, so the Bible says that we are going to fall short every single day. And so there's going to be conflict. We're not always going to be ourselves. We're going to mess up. But I think we've kind of talked about just the Bible saying to keep short accounts of those things. Be quick to apologize and forgive each other. I think those are so huge. I was listening to a podcast by Jenny Allen, and she was just talking about how to love our friends when it's really hard. She's talked so much about that our friends are going to disappoint us. We're going to disappoint them, but we can know that God will never disappoint us. And so I think that those truths, like, bring a lot of freedom, because we don't have to have, like, that expectation on our friends, or we can know that they're going to mess up, we're going to mess
Right.
up, but we can't put like our hope and our identity in our friendships and stuff, because we ultimately have to have
Yeah.
that just from the Lord. And so, yeah, I'm just thankful for that like those truths that we know that our friends aren't going to
Yeah.
be something that we have to fully depend on, because we're not going to be perfect.
That's so good. I love what you said, keep short accounts. I was reading in a book this week, and he's a pastor, and he talked about how to thrive in communication and relationships and even in a workplace, but also this applies to friendships. And he decided that anytime he is talking to someone in an office setting, or we're going to say friendships here, just making it known like, hey, I want to keep short accounts with you. So if you ever have something that I've done that offended you, I want you to come and talk to me, and so we can work it out and be done with it.
Yeah.
Or if I ever have something that I'm offended with, then I'll just come and talk to you, and then we'll be done with it. And I feel like that is such a huge thing, because so naturally we want to stew over what went wrong. We want to talk to our friends about what went wrong with this other friendship.
Yeah.
And instead, like, we can live in a healthy environment of, okay, we just know as friends we're going to keep short accounts.
Yeah.
And Ephesians 4:26 says, it talks about don't let the sun go down on your anger or on your wrath. And I think that's so huge for us, of like, okay, if there was an offense that happened between some people, then go talk about it, work it out, and forgive. And we, of course, get the ultimate example of forgiveness from Jesus. And like you said, he is the perfect example of a friend, the most wonderful friend. We get to be friends of God. And he forgives us over and over and over again. And so many times in friendships, it's like, okay, if they do one more thing, that's it. Like, I am
I'm
over
done.
this. I'm
Yeah.
done. And that's
Right.
such a dangerous place to be.
Yeah.
Because if you're like, okay, well, I'm done, and you just are going to sever that relationship, you're like, oh, they crossed me one too many times, whatever
Yeah.
it may be, then you have a lot of, just, I feel like, rubble in the past.
Yeah.
That's like, oh, that's an old friend that we're done. We're not friends anymore. So we had a falling out. We had a falling out. We had a falling out. And I would just encourage anybody, if you have that story of, man, I was friends with this person, but we had a falling out. I was friends with this person, and that seems to be a pattern in your life. I would encourage any person to examine themselves and examine their heart and their motives, and to say, am I quick to forgive? Am I keeping short accounts?
Yeah.
Because ultimately, if we keep short accounts, then they're short accounts and we're good.
Yeah, definitely. And you can look past that.
Yeah.
I think I heard once too in a podcast of like a 24-hour rule. So
Yes.
if something happens, if there's a conflict, if there's something that hurt your feelings that a friend said, or something like that, to address that within 24 hours. Don't let the sun go down on it, because I think that can lead to so much like built up tension and so much built up hurt. And then when they do something down the road again, then you're going to think of that past hurt from the past. And that's just not worth it. And that's not healthy. And so I think it's just so worth it to address it right away. I know that it's not easy to manage conflict and to address things with friends. That's always something that is awkward. I don't like doing it either.
Oh, my word.
And I'm not perfect at it. But I think it's just so worth it to keep good friendships, and I think that will grow your friendship too, to be able to address and work through conflict.
Yes. That gives you more respect for that person.
Yeah.
If they're like, man, I just want to apologize for this because I said this, and I want to make sure that we're okay. I think I was out of line.
Oh, yeah.
And when people do that to me, I am like, I have so much more respect for them.
Yeah,
I'm
I
like,
agree.
they are such a person of character, and I can trust them.
Yeah.
And so even though there was something that came up, and it might not even be that big of a deal, but they still were like, hey, I just wanted to apologize. I'm always just like so grateful, because this is the beauty of having a relationship with Jesus, that we mess up all the time.
Right.
Literally every day. The Bible says we are sinful, but because of God, we are able to have a relationship with him because of Jesus. And so, and it's never like we've gone too far.
Right.
And so I love that so much, that because of our relationship with Jesus, we then can have healthy relationships with other people around us, because the grace that God has shown us, we can then extend that grace to other people.
Yeah, totally.
So.
And just extending the love that God's shown for us into the love for our friends, and loving our friends when it's hard, or loving our friends when something great goes on in their life, and we get to celebrate them just
Yes.
as Jesus would do for us, and just love us so well that we can then pour that into our friendships.
That's so good. I
Yeah.
love that so much.
Me too.
So really practically, Chloe, if someone's
Yeah.
like, man, I haven't been keeping short accounts with my friends,
Yeah.
what would you say? Would you tell them to bring up that conversation, or, how would you go about that?
Yeah, I think I would first say to bring that to the Lord, in prayer, and just asking for God to guide you and give you direction in that conversation, because that can be hard to look at a friend and be like, these are the past things that we've gone through that have hurt me and maybe have hurt you too. And so that's not an easy conversation, but I think just coming to the Lord in surrender of that conversation and that kind of situation in your life with a friend. So just asking God for the guidance to give you the words. But then, maybe seeking wise counsel too of someone older than you, or someone that you respect a lot or you look up to. But ultimately then coming to that friend, I think is something very healthy, and to address that with that friend and lay out your heart before them and just saying, like, I love you so much and I want to pursue this friendship still. It means so much to me, but I want to work through this to make our relationship healthier. And I've been there, and I think it's so worth it in the end to be able to address those things. And like you said, I think the friend on the other end appreciates that so much and admires that too. And then hopefully then they'll do that for you if they have a conflict with you. So
Absolutely. I love that. And I think being just like, hey, we haven't kept short accounts in the past, but we're going to start today.
Yeah.
And we're going to go fresh from here. And anytime there's something that comes up, we'll deal with it, and then we'll be good. And I'm so thankful for my parents who taught. There's 5 siblings, so there's 5 of us, and so there's room for conflict for sure. But I'm so grateful because they taught us, and they casted that vision for our family of, okay, anytime there's a situation, we're gonna deal with it. And then you're going to apologize, and then you're going to hug it out, and then you're going to be done, and we're not going to look back on that. And that has just helped set the tone and set the culture for, I feel like, my relationships, my friendships. And so I would encourage anybody who, is just struggling in their friendships, maybe this is something to consider and to think through, maybe I just haven't myself been a good friend, and I need to consider how I can do that.
I love that. Just tying... we've learned in our series on Sunday mornings of creating the culture of our families, but that pours into our friendships too.
Yes.
And so I'm so thankful that we get to learn from your parents in that of how to create a culture for a friendship too, because that's so, so important.
Yeah, for sure. I love to, Psalms 133:1 says this, how good and pleasant it is when God's people live together in unity. Oh my goodness, I love that verse because that's a picture of what we can do as friends. We don't have to be fighting all the time. We don't have to always have drama that comes up. I think especially for my ladies out there, that can be a struggle. And in college, you're gaining new friends. You're trying to keep your old friends from high school. Maybe you're just graduated from college. I remember when I first graduated college, I was like, where did all my friends go? I graduated, and now I feel alone. And something I had to do was pray and ask the Lord, will you please bring me good, godly friends that are meaningful friendships? And some of the things that I was thinking through, and I was reading something, and it talked about what are some qualities of a good friendship. And I think one of the first things was being able to inspire each other in the faith. And I think that makes it so rich that it's oh my goodness, we get to do ministry together. Chloe and we get to do ministry together. And that's so rich because we are working to accomplish God's work. And in the meantime, we are so blessed by each other. I feel that way at least.
Totally. Yeah, exactly. I think that too, because I think of just parts of our friendship too that I appreciate so much is just being able, I know that we get to share what we learn with each other in reading in God's word, and we get to talk about that with each other, and we can ask each other those things or send each other pictures of this was in my Bible today, So I think that that's really sweet, and I love that just in connection to that.
Yeah. So what would you say another quality of a good friendship would be?
Yeah. I think a good one. I mean, kind of like I said, I immediately think of just sharing what you're learning with each other. I think there's
Yeah.
something so special about that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think accountability is something that has
Yes.
really been huge in my life recently, just in so many areas, not just in one specifically, but
Mm-hmm.
just if there's an area that you're struggling in or that you want
Mm-hmm.
to be better about, maybe it's a different discipline in your
Mm-hmm.
life, whether it's about prayer or exercising and eating or something like that. I think asking a good friend that you trust to keep you accountable in that, because ultimately they're some of the closest people in your life. You might not be living
Yeah.
near your family, but you might be living near your friends, especially I know in college right now, that's like my thing for me. I'm closer to my friends right now, like physically. So I want to ask my friends to keep me accountable in certain things. So I think that that's just been something super huge for me and a quality of a friendship in my life that I've just appreciated so much. It has made a huge difference in our friendship too.
Yeah. That's so good. Another quality would be healthy friendships speak the truth in love. And the Bible talks about that. We kind of talked about that with keeping short accounts.
Yes.
But having that environment where you can absolutely do what the Bible says, speak the truth in love, and help that person grow in their relationship with God, I think is so
Yeah.
huge. And I would want all of my friends
Yeah.
to also do that for me, because
Yeah.
none of us, I think, want to just stay where we're at for the rest of our lives. Like, we want to be able to grow into the person
Yeah.
God has called us to be.
Definitely.
And so allowing that in the friendship, and so naturally when the other friend is pursuing the Lord, then naturally that kind of happens.
Yeah.
And it's the sweetest thing when you can do that and when someone does that to you. I know my roommate and my sister, we all live together, and it's been so fun because we're able to talk about, okay, what are we reading? We're able to talk
Yes.
about, this is a struggle right now. Can you
Yeah.
pray for me? And to just build each other up and to be able to just talk about those things, just make it way more meaningful. And
Yeah.
it's just like, seriously, sometimes I sit back and I'm like, I just cannot believe the friendships that God has blessed me
Yeah.
with.
Seriously.
It's just like one of life's biggest blessings.
Right. And it's so refreshing too.
Oh, my
To be able
word.
to sit and look at that and be like, thank you, God, for these friends in my
Yes.
life that refresh me. And we're not always going to be perfect, but truly can fill me up too.
Yes.
So
Oh my
I love
goodness.
that.
I just love that. I love that healthy friendships, Chloe, can be fun,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. What's something fun that you like to do with your friends?
I think just trying new things, like
Yeah.
seeing a new place in the area and going to try it immediately, whether it's a food place or a place to shop at, like just trying new things with each other,
Yeah.
because I think that's such a fun experience to have.
Yeah. Okay. I love that.
What about you?
Oh man. Okay. So we just recently, a couple friends and I just
Yeah?
recently went and had dinner in a yurt. So it's pretty
You're
cool.
getting all the questions about
I was
that.
getting all the questions about that. It was really fun. It was so random too,
Mm-hmm.
but we're single. We can do fun things. And
Yeah.
so we drove to like close to Branson and we had dinner in a yurt, and they
That's
taught
so
us
fun.
how to forage for dinner. So really interesting. I probably will not be foraging for my dinner
Foraging for
anytime
dinner.
soon.
Okay.
But it was
that's
just
trying new
fun and
things.
adventurous.
Yeah.
Yes. So
Aw.
I love that friendships can be fun, and it's
Yeah.
such a gift from God too.
Totally.
So
Totally.
yes, Chloe, what other thoughts on friendship?
Yeah, I think we've covered so many just good points, and I think that these are all things that we can just re-examine our lives. I know even just after we've talked through this podcast I'm like, okay, I need to sit back and maybe examine some friendships
Yeah.
in my life that, maybe I am not keeping a short account on. And so I want to be better at that. And so I think just after listening to this, be able to examine the friendships in your life and maybe coming to God with them in prayer and
Yeah.
just praising God for those friendships too, I think is a big thing, kind of like we talked about, of saying,
Yeah.
God, thank you for these friends. So I think that's a huge thing too, just coming to God in thanksgiving for the people
Oh,
that
my
He
word.
has given you. And like you said, I love that you said just praying for friends too. If you don't feel like you have a close friendship or friendships that honor God and are some that we've kind of talked about, then pray for those. And I just think that that's a really practical thing to do from here
Yeah.
on out.
Oh my gosh, for sure. One last thing that I did think about.
Yeah.
Okay, so sometimes when in a relationship there is a situation where it's just going wrong,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Yeah,
it
it
always
happens.
happens. It happens.
Totally.
And when we were talking about this earlier, we were talking about, okay,
Yeah.
what would be the what would we say to somebody who is having like a break in a relationship?
Yeah.
Do they just, abandon it and be cool with it? Or do they work to reconcile that relationship?
Yeah.
And I think what we said was always work to reconcile that relationship.
It's always worth it.
Oh my gosh, it's always worth it. And even if you have to put up boundaries after you've reconciled that, it would be the biblical thing for us to reconcile a relationship and to go to that person and apologize. And Matthew talks about how to deal with conflict in a situation like that. And we can go to that person and say, hey, this is the offense. This is what's going on. And I want to work this out. And sometimes we might not know like how it's going to end up, but like it's our job to go to that person and to say, hey, I want to own it and I want to apologize and I want to work to make this friendship work. And sometimes it's like you have to do that, the hard work.
Yeah.
And then you do need to put up a boundary and you're like, okay, I'm not going to spend as much time as I did with them. But I think always going to that person and trying to talk through it is so I would say wise. And then I think too, like just remembering we never want to sever any relationships. We always want to be building bridges to people. And even if it's like, okay, we don't have anything in common anymore, we're done with this. It's like you still want to be able to see them out in person and not have like this ill will towards them. You want to have this attitude of, man, I did what God wanted me to and ask for forgiveness for where I was wrong. But we don't have to be best friends anymore.
Yeah.
And that's a hard line.
It is.
It's such a hard line. But I think that it's something that we can bring it to the Lord and ask for his help.
Yeah.
And like what you said earlier, we need to bring it to wise counsel and ask them, do I need to have a boundary in this? We have a really great book recommendation in boundaries. The book is called Boundaries and it's awesome. We have a podcast on boundaries. So you can check that out too.
Yeah, definitely.
But I think that would be something that people probably are dealing with right now.
Yeah.
That we would want to talk about.
I think that's so wise. And I think even just seeking wise counsel is one of the things that you said in that situation. Like a mentor or someone in your life might be able to bring insight into that relationship that maybe you don't see right now while you're in kind of the thick of it. So I think that is really the wise thing to do. And like we've said repeatedly, that it's going to be worth it. And should definitely be addressed because you don't want to lose a friendship that was maybe once super, super sweet to you.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So we definitely encourage anybody who's struggling in that area to pray about it and to ask God to help lead you in the next step. So
for sure.
I think finally Romans 12:10 says this. It says, be devoted to one another in love and honor one another as yourself. And I think that's such a good verse for us to kind of end on because that shows us we are supposed to be devoted to one another in friendships and to honor one another and to serve each other. And so as you guys are finishing up this podcast, I hope that you can look for ways to serve your friends, look for ways to love your friends and celebrate them and ask God to help you have healthy relationships with the people that he's put in your life. And like you said, if you don't have those healthy friendships that are God honoring, ask God for some. And I do believe that he'll bring them to you.
Yeah, he definitely will.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching and we'll see you next time.
Guys.